Man, what's good, everybody, man? You know what I'm saying? It's your boy Swami one time. This is gonna be my second motherfucking time recording this video, but it's all good. Maybe I'm meant to, transmute a different frequency one time for y'all, man. And it's all in divine timing. But what's good? We gonna talk about today, the sacred secretion in the cerebrospinal fluid and the Christ within us all, and the transmutation of sexual energy on a base level. So when I say sexual energy, I do mean the energy of creation, but not pertaining to only the bounds of bonding with another counterpart. The base energy of everything is sexual energy, and that is creation. And we look at the symbol of the cross, one of the most ancient symbols of time, predating Christianity. And what does that symbol mean? And we have the lingam, the penis, right? And the yoni, the ovaries, the vagina. And what does these two symbols mean beyond the physical representations? When we cross the two, you know what I'm saying? When we cross the two, we get creation. We create life. When we cross an atom and another atom, we get new things. When we cross different types of elements, we create new elements. When we use different type in ritual, if you cross different types of methods within a ritual, you get a new result, crossing creation every single time. And that is what that means. And then if you look at the Nazis and all the different types of cultures around the world and the symbol that they used, that was the cross in motion. And what did they all study? Kundalini energy, chi, organ energy, uh, prana, all different types of methods of under, or all different types of labels of looking at the energy within us, the Kundalini energy. And they all understood how to manifest and expand in that way. And this is what we're trying to do right now in the modern day. And in the cross, it's symbolized in the movement in the way that the Nazis knew about Vril energy as well. And if you look at it, the cross, if you just put little arms on it going in all different directions, leading the same way or opposite directions, it looks like it's spinning. And so Vril energy, the energy of the cross in movement. So once you have creation, then the movement of the energy is to expand, ascend, and generate, move upwards. You know what I'm saying? And so look at the staff of Caduceus. You have the staff, which represents the 33 vertebrae of the spinal column. And you also have the wings at the tip. So the wings at the tip symbolize the ascension process, what occurs within the mind. So at the end of the staff of Caduceus, you have the ball that tops it off, which is the pineal gland, the heavens, which is symbolized by the wings and the ascension, and the two serpents coiled, rising upwards upon its axis, the spinal column, the chrism of the Christ within, the cerebrospinal fluid being transmutated into higher energies. And in alchemy, we look at the lead we look at lead into gold. We transmutate lead into gold on a material level. But what about on an energetic level? It was just discovered recently that if you exert enough energy upon Mercury, it actually transmutates into gold. It actually transmutates into gold. Like what the fuck, bruh? You know what I'm saying? That's crazy. So imagine that within the system, knowing that sperm actually has sperm, which is base energy, or even within the female system, there's traces of Mercury in the ovaries. And so if you convert if you convert the Mercury by exerting enough energy on it, by doing transmutative energetic practices, you can actually convert the energy into gold. And so the process of doing this and the methods of doing it is through pranayama, sexual transmutation, which we'll get to later. Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, All these different types of energetic manipulation within this physical system is all implemented to facilitate these energies into transmutating them into higher realms. And you're opening. So all right. I'm getting a little too ahead of myself. So I'm gonna read you this little excerpt from a video from John St. Julien Baba Wanyama, and he's very profound. He's a great man who's sacrificing himself on another part of the world, giving himself all to expressing his experience with the Christic energy and how far it's brought him and what it means to him. And so I'm going to read you this little diagram, or this little excerpt on this diagram one time about the cerebrospinal fluid and the central nervous system. So what does it mean to have the Christ within? To have the sacred secretion happen with the cerebrospinal fluid. So the anointing is the secretion, a substance once named Chrism, the origin of the word Christ being anointing or anointed. The Christ within us all is born in the sacral plexus, or the sacred place, where the 5 fused vertebrae of the spine meet. The Christ seed is born here and begins its journey up the 33 vertebrae to be crucified and amplified in power. When it meets the pituitary and pineal gland after spending 3 days in the hypothalamus, which is the tomb, which also symbolizes the 3 days of the resurrection of the Christ and Osiris, and all throughout history, and all the different people who really truly facilitated this energy went through this practice or this process, and it's symbolized as within and as without, as above, so below. And so it creates a circuit causing the secretion of DMT, which is the honey secreted by the pituitary gland, and the serotonin, which is secreted by the pineal gland, right? I mean the DMT, which is secreted by the pituitary, and the serotonin secreted by the pineal. And when the seed and oil is preserved and returned, you in short reach the promised land and become a perfect antenna for prayer. You walk through the gates of nirvana. It's laid out like that. We talked about sexual transmutation of the energies within us into higher energies, the lead of the personality into the gold of the spirit. You know what I'm saying? And the personality is at the base. When we look at personality, it's usually based on the 5 senses, and we only really need the 5 senses for survival on this physical plane, and to operate in the proper way on this physical plane. And beyond that, we have energetic realms and aspects that we also need to address. And by opening our energies and doing the practices and transmutating that energy of only living on a base level, living in the realm of the Muladhara chakra, the root chakra, the base. We must rise through the realms and take that sexual energy and rise it through the 33 degrees of the vertebrae, which will reach the pineal and the pituitary gland and secrete the milk and honey, the land of the milk and honey, which is located within the mind. So the land of milk and honey is the heavens, where the golden age was. And where is that? Located within the mind. So the heavens is within us and without. Astrophysiology tells us the same thing. And we're going to look where the sexual energy of the cerebrospinal fluid travels once it is nurtured and facilitated. So by doing this once a month on the 3 days that alchemically this happens on an elemental level as well, the Christic energy of the cerebrospinal fluid, it drips from the mind down the spine, and is then is nurtured through here. As it's excreted, it gets dropped down into the sexual centers of the second chakra, and it needs to be facilitated and transmutated. And only doing this for 3 days out of the month is not enough. Just to do it for 3 days it's good. It's good to do, but you have the whole rest of the month to think about. I believe that all the people that successfully had this happen, not the people we're looking towards nowadays, you know, and the ones really trying to experience this and put it to use and then talk about what happened from it instead of just theorizing this is how it goes, this is how the ancients said it, woo, woo, woo. It's like, no, this is what I experienced and this is what I'm going through. And I can tell you from experience that if you just simply do this and do the 3 day, it is not as profound as actually doing pranayama, sexually transmitting the energy, doing yoga, taking care of the physical tool that we have by doing exercise, along with breaking away from the energy blockages that we facilitated from a youngster, and using intention, understanding energy, eating the right types of foods, making foods with the right intention, using ritual, using the elementals of the energy of the earth around us, and attuning ourselves truly with what it means to be one with nature, not separate from it, like considering every aspect of it, from the plant kingdom to the mineral kingdom to the animal kingdom to the humans around us, and not only simply creating a reality of how we see it, but how it really is, and being the best that we can be, you know, doing this every single day on a momentary basis, killing off the ego, you know, um, which is the part of the personality which has bred us up into this point. And then what we're supposed to do now is to kill the ego off so we can open up different energy channels within us, because every negative impact within us is another habitual ritual for us to actually break down this seed. You know what I'm saying? And so we have to think about that on every level, how it's within our psyche, embedded within our emotions, how we react to things mentally, how our mental speech is, how we use the voice of creation, how we talk to people, how we react to everything. Everything is energy, and to be fickle about this and to only be like, you know what, I'm only going to do half based on my opinion. Sorry, but truth is undebatable by opinion. There's nothing I can feel about this. There's nothing I can say or nothing I can say about it or do about it. I could be mad to the fucking brim that I have to do these things. But at the end of the day, this is the truth of what's going on. So niggas, you gotta suck it up and make it happen. You know what I'm saying? If this is what's popping, you need to make the sacrifice and experience these things. Like, this is not the day and age for theory. This is not time to just read. This is not a time to just, dip off and meditate. This is not just a time to only think positive. Like, those are all cool, but don't glamorize it as an image of spirituality and to separate yourself further from people. It's time to integrate the ascetic lifestyle with the lifestyle of the mystic and the modern man, the businessman. It's time to utilize everything that we have at our fingertips to spread the truth and our experiences as human beings. And it's also time to implement the ancient techniques and expand our energy and take responsibility for everything that goes on within and without us, because it's too easy to blame everybody else for everything. You know what I'm saying? And too easy to blame external sources when everything has been laid out for us, but we just have to make a choice and make it happen. And so anyway, back to where the sexual energy goes when it actually gets transmutated up to 33 vertebrae, or 33 degrees of the spine, the 33 chambers that we must rise and go through. And every single spinal, or every single chamber and degree that we rise, we must face another degree of initiation, which is going to be trials and tests within the physical realm to test how far we're really willing to learn and take this. And it does not just happen doing this a few times. This is a lifetime study, and to really facilitate and open up the energies for the energy of the Christ. And I'm going to call that an energy body, when the Chrism, to facilitate the proper energies to expand the 12 cranial nerves that are doubled until the 24. We must expand our energies. We must do the methods proper. are necessary, and we must make the sacrifices and disciplines to have a life that is now, we wouldn't even imagine this is a sacrifice in the future when if we do this on a momentary basis. You know what I'm saying? Like this, it's going to be night and day. And I can speak from experience. Just doing this in the past 6-7 months now, of completely doing pranayama. I've done yoga for the past 2 years now, every single day. I practice with various forms of magic, which is only just an experience of making things happen on an energetic level. It's not, summoning these things. It is part, but it's not just summoning and sacrificing these things and, doing like that's very surface. Don't think about the movies, man. This is how they want us to look at it. And we got to take it back to the ancients. We got to take it back to, the first motherfucker dog who was out there and didn't have a book. Who was the first motherfucker that was like, you know what? I'm gonna sit down and look internally one time. We got to take it back to that. You know what I'm saying? We got to take it back to the space that we can't just put on a video. We can't just look for a book. We have to learn and be a guru, and from the things that we do and interact with and the way that we question things and view things, expanding our perception. We have to take it back to that ancient time, and look on an experiential basis, because theory is a part of the intellect, and the intellect leads to destruction if it's only a means to an end. And anything like that's not taken in the full elemental projection is a means to an end, and we have to look at it as a means to expand. So we have to consider all the different branches of everything and look at it in an open manner, that we are still being students to the things, and so I'm gonna get back to this now one time. There's my little spiel one time. But so when it comes to where the energy travels, it's gonna travel up to the ventricles of the brain. And here I'm gonna describe I'm gonna show what the ventricular system is. So the ventricular system is a set of 4 interconnected cavities or ventricles in the brain where the cerebrospinal fluid is produced. Within each hold up. Okay, so the ventricular system is continuous with the central canal of the spinal cord from the 4th ventricle, allowing for the flow of the CSF to circulate. So we have it in our physiology for the cerebrospinal fluid to circulate and be created, the chrism to happen, to be anointed. And it's only our job to facilitate and to nurture it through the transmutation of the sexual energy, converting the lead of the personality into the gold of the spirit. The lead of the sexual energy, which is the lead of the sexual energy transmutated and risen up the spine to reach the pineal gland and the pituitary gland, which will transmute it into Christic energy. And that's how we facilitate it. But this is a process, you know what I'm saying? And it's funny because this chamber is also called the Fornix, or the vaulted chamber, or the archway. So we have the Ark of the Covenant, the royal archway of the Masons, and in our anatomy, from which we get the etymology of the word fornication. And the fornix comes from fornis, which means furnace. In this case, where the flame or the light of the mind burns, and where the torch bears and stands the solitary candle of the eternal flame of the divine. So we have many similarities in the etymology, and it's just revealing many clues one time for us. So when it comes back to fornication, and let's in the commandments, you know what I'm saying? I ain't trying to get religious on you one time, but in the commandments, these virtues, the commandments are virtues laid out not to be a stickler and be all strict and whatnot. These are actual energetic virtues that, if you resonate with them, facilitate different types of energies within you. And that is what it means to resonate at higher levels. It doesn't mean to demonize sex. It doesn't mean to demonize experiencing the fruits of the world. Nothing is meant to be demonized, because everything is divine. The only thing that demonizes it is the personality and the ego. You know what I'm saying? That is what turns it into the demon, that overtakes us, the spirit that overcomes us, and that's what causes bad things to happen, trauma, negative circumstances, etc. And so fornication, and the word fornix, furnace. So literally fornication is going to mean burning away. You know what I'm saying? In the act of burning things away. You know what I'm saying? And we're not trying to burn anything away. We're trying to facilitate and nurture the seed and have the seed bear the flame. You know what I'm saying? And so fornication is a means to an end. If you're expelling the sexual energy in a way that it's always going outward, how is it going to be able to transmute upward, up the spinal fluid? You know what I'm saying? How is it going to facilitate the energies of the Christic self, the inner Christ within? How are you going to have the sacred secretion if the sexual energy that is created and dripped down the spine, going downward, then it gets rooted, seeded, and then fed and nourished? If in the process of being fed and nourished, it gets expelled, the sexual energy is no more. And so during these 3 days, if you're doing this and expelling the sexual energy, that's it, son. It's a wrap. You know what I'm saying? So you got to take this into consideration. And the sexual energy has to be taken very vitally. It's a part of our life force. It's the prana, which turns into, or it's the sexual energy which converts into prana when you do pranayama and open up the pathways, and then converts into solar energy, and then further in the vibrational scale converts into Christic energy. And through this process, every level of transmutation, we take it from the second chakra to the third, to the fifth, or the second to the third, to the fourth, to the fifth, to the sixth, and to the seventh. And then you create a central axis of Christic energy. And so in the fornix, the furnace, it can either be burnt away, or you can help it burn and facilitate its expansion in the pineal gland, the seat of the flame. You know what I'm saying? And we need to, and if you overlay the pyramid upon the mind, it directly shows you that. Let's see if I could find it one time. Okay. Well, if you overlay the pyramid, oh, here we go.
Pineal gland, which is because here is Queen's Chamber, and this is why it's located why it's the Royal Arch. And again, later on in the video, I'll explain more about why it's royal and how it relates to the royalty, to the pharaoh, the king cobra, the king serpent, the basilisk, which means king serpent, which again refers to royalty. So I'll cover that in depth.
So damn, man. So really it goes all back to the serpent energy rising up the spinal column, reaching the royal archway of the mind, and which is where the heavens lie, and even in the symbolism of Freemasonry, we have the G for gnosis. We have the symbolism of the ruler, and I don't even know what that is. My bad, but high key, what does that mean? You know what I'm saying? What is it the shape of? It's the yoni, you know what I'm saying, and the lingam. You know what I'm saying? So you already have two separate symbols of the penis and the vagina, which creates the gnosis, the energy, the expansion, the transmutation upwards towards the royal archway, converting the lunar energy into solar energy. So I mean, it's pretty laid out, for us, man, and we need to facilitate this, and it's in every culture, the Kundalini energy, the serpent, and from the east to the west. And I'm gonna read you an excerpt from this article. And right at the top it says, Kundalini is what allows us to expand infinitely, so that we can see the whole universe within ourselves. Kundalini, one energy, many names. In every culture and in every time, knowledge of the divine power dwelling in each human being has been a closely guarded secret. The first people knew no sickness. Not until separation entered the world did people get sick in the body or the head. It was the medicine man or shaman, knowing how man was constructed, could tell what was wrong with the person by examining the energy centers within the body. Almost all religions or spiritual traditions speak of this inner power in some form or the other. The Japanese called it ki, the Chinese called it chi, and in Christianity it is known as the Holy Spirit. In Mexico, Kundalini was worshipped as the serpent god Quetzalcoatl. He wasn't necessarily worshipped as directly the serpent god Quetzalcoatl, but Quetzalcoatl facilitated this energy and was revered as a god. And he was just another Christ. He accomplished the true anointing of the Christic oil within oneself and the transmutation of the sexual energy, just as Buddha did, just as Babaji did, Lord Shiva, Jesus Christ, Yeshua ben Joseph, Osiris, all of these different beings successfully attempted and completed the chrism of the Christ and the anointing oil up to 33 degrees of the spine. The Hopis with the American Indians know all about the energy that is awakened at the base of the spine. The mother Kundalini energy is coiled 3 times at the base of the spine and rises to the top of the head, but is regarded as so sacred that they are forbidden even to pronounce its name. Shades of the unpronounceable name of God. Man, see, like they understood how divine this was, and what's funny is the region of the mind that holds the pineal gland and the pituitary gland, and where we're trying to reach the chrism, is also known as the villa of Pitamen. And when we say a prayer, we're directly talking to the voice of God and resonating with the light of God. And look at the word Pitamen, Pitamen. So you have at the end of that, which is in the heavens. Every time we end a prayer, we solidify with Amen, and that's how it's said in the Vatican City. And we have the resonance of all matter or all creation. We have the word Om, which is the vibration of the universe, and when we spell it out in the traditional setting, it's spelled with A-U-M. So we have creation, A, sustenance, U, U, and destruction, M. You know what I'm saying? In one word. So we already give it its proper energetic boost every time, and resonate with the heavens and the Christ within us every time we say a prayer and say Amen. So it's known and embedded within us to vibrate on this level. And it all comes down to the transmutation of the energy and the physiology within us. As your cerebral at rebirth, your cerebral spinal fluid, the Christ, climbs your 33 vertebrae, Jacob's ladder, and meets your 12 cranial nerves, the 12 disciples, and it ignites the pineal gland, which is now your resurrection. So as it reaches the tomb for the 3 days, in the hypothalamus, it creates a circuit causing the secretion of the DMT, which is from the pituitary gland, and the serotonin, which is from the milk of the pineal gland, the land of the milk and honey. You reach the promised land and become an antenna, a perfect antenna for prayer, and walk through the gates of nirvana and the gates of heaven, and reach the holy of holies and facilitate the fire in the king's chamber. You reach the Ark of the Covenant. And once a month we have the moon reaching our solar sign cycle once a month. And during this time, during those 3 days, the Christic energy is created, the cerebrospinal fluid drips down the spine, and it is our job to nurture it and transmutate it upward. and exert enough energy upon it in order for it to turn into gold and rise up the vertebrae of the spine and have the mother goddess Kundalini touch the heavens once more. And this is what we're meant to do. And naturally, how they have us nowadays is, there's people that unconsciously come into certain types of divine experience, and during this time, um, and there's also other people who consciously have divine experience happen. And there's a story about Swami Vivekananda, and he speaks about there was a young sannyasa, and he was meditating within a forest, and he had been an ascetic for a certain amount of years, heavily practicing yoga every day, and doing pranayama and the different types of transmutative exercises. And what he was doing, or what happened, was he was meditating one day, and he heard a noise in the bushes, and in rage, being awoken from his meditation, he looked and gasped he glanced at these two birds, and they burnt to a crisp. And he didn't do this intentionally, but his anger behind his intention is what sparked the flame to ignite externally, because the flame within was so powerful that any energy that he exerted outwardly burnt to a crisp. And now he was at the point of being ill-aligned. He had clairvoyancy, intuition, could be one with the elementals and communicate with anything, and be in touch with nature itself, truly internally and externally. And so he decided at this point in time that he would go visit his mother after so many amounts of years. And he gets there, and he's expecting his mother to treat him exactly how he did before, because she held a certain duty. And in India, and back then especially, when you held a role in society, you played it out to fullest part, no matter what it was. There was no stepping away from it, and you lived it out completely, and it was your duty. You know what I'm saying? And her duty as a mother was to take care of her son and make sure he was living right in the world, and was going to expand in the right way and nurture that seed. So he ascends into his heavenly realm, and he became ill-aligned. And when he came back, he had the same expectation of his mother's duties. And to his knowledge, to what he came to find out when he got there, was that his mother was now taking care of his father, who was bedridden and ill. And he goes, "Mother, would you make me, the traditional curry that you used to make us back in the day, when I was a youngster?" You know what I'm saying? I wanted some of Mama's home cooking one time. And she was like, "Son, I must take care of your father. This is my duty now. You left off and branched off into your own being, and now it's time for me to take care of this man while he gives us all in his duty." And she, without his take on it, she immediately talks upon the situation that happened earlier, and she says, "I'm not the two birds in the forest that can be burned down with intentional rage." You know what I'm saying? And he is blown away. He's flabbergasted. He goes, how in the world would you even know this? How would you have the intuition and the clairvoyancy to do this? You have never practiced as a yogi. You have never, opened up your energy fields, etc. But all she did was live. She did open up her energy fields, though, because she said, "I have now become illumined by completely fulfilling my duty on this planet." And she opened up her own energy fields that way, by living one with the divinity. And I think when it comes down to unconditional love and nurturing, the expansion of energy will naturally happen if you stay in a state of openness and expansion. You know what I'm saying? No matter what, it's going to happen if you embrace unconditional love and the transmutation of sexual energy. No matter what, it's going to happen. And living out your duty and embracing nature for what it is going to happen, regardless of the path. And but what we have, like, for somebody back then, that would be ideal. I wish we could say that unconditional love and all of this is only going to be the way, but it's not. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's part of it, but we also have to embrace what we are as a human being. now, because we've been directed off the path for so long that the direction of our energy, which naturally is supposed to flow upward in a centripetal manner, is now flowing centrifugally downward and expelling the sexual energy outward. And so when you see the yogis doing headstands, they're actually trying to flow that energy backward and get the natural flow of the toroidal field upward. And doing pranayama, doing breathing exercises, eating the right kinds of food, putting the right intention down, taking care of this physical tool that we have at our disposal, the mental body, the emotional body, etc. This is how we open ourselves to these new energies and embrace our nature as human beings, so we can facilitate the Christic energy fully. And it would be ideal if we didn't have all these things distracting us and now directing our attention to push our energy outwards. And now it's time to do the methods to bring it back up, and we have to fight to do this, because Samael Aunweor says if one looked at his astral body in the astral plane, we would see that now we have a tail. And this is described as the Kunda buffer organ. And the Kunda buffer organ is the opposite of the Kundalini. And the Kundalini energy can flow one or two ways, centripetally or centrifugally. So centrifugally, it would flow downward. And so if you look at the downward flow, if you looked at the Kundalini serpent flowing outward, it would symbolize a tail. And so now we have the creation and the depiction of the demonic tail, the devil's tail, and the horns. You know what I'm saying? They're symbols. And of the Kunda buffer organ and the Kundarctic organ, which is the opposite flow of the Kundalini energy, which is the ending of the Kunda buffer and the transmutation of that sexual energy into the Christ. And so we must facilitate this through the transmutation practices. And here I'm going to give you one example, a simple method that you can do and implement into your life. I definitely recommend looking up pranayama and practicing it. The book Raja Yoga by Swami Vivekananda was a great primer. I'm pretty sure you can find other teachers too that can show you how to do it. But we must remember that experience is the best teacher, and until you sit down and do it and experience it yourself, you can contemplate and read as much books and theories and methods on how to do pranayama, but until you actually do it every single day for a month plus, then you will understand what pranayama does, and you will feel the results when you get up. You will feel it on a day-to-day basis. Like right now, I haven't slept all night, and it's 10:30. I've been studying since about 4 in the morning, messing with this damn video program one time, just trying to do this. And I've been doing pranayama for the past year, and doing it more frequently throughout the day, now as sun up and sundown, for the past 7 months, instead of just doing it sometimes sporadically throughout the day and for a shorter and less intense amount of time, because I was kind of priming myself for right now. But what we're doing when we do these methods, it's not like whatever pranayama is, whatever yoga is, like whatever tai chi, qigong, whatever the mask is, it's all the transmutation of energy and opening up the different pathways within the body, the chakra system, the neurons, the glands, the meridians, the nadis, all of these different points of energy are facilitated within us, and they're either blocked or closed from how we've been living up to this point in time. And in order to open up new ones, it requires the transmutation of sexual energy and the methods to open up these pathways. And that is it. That is the fact of the matter. And you cannot deny the physiology of us and the energetic aspects of us anymore. It's time to take reins as a human being. I'm going to read to you a very simple practice that you can do. Now, like I said, look up pranayama. So I'm going to read this it's an excerpt from one of Samael Aunweor's books. And, I heavily advise you to look up his stuff, and he changed my life, when it came to approaching this in an experiential manner. He gave up many decades of his life, and from the jump, he was always adept at meditation and being one with nature. And he finally found a medium for him to practice and open up his energies. And he came across the Eastern realm and then the Western world. And then he implemented them and wrote 70 plus books in a very short amount of time. Very in-depth books that are all that I feel resonate with the truth based on experience of what I've gone through. And if you guys have any questions and if you want me to make a video about my experiences with pranayama, with doing ritual magic, etc., just doing the basic things of the mechanics of this universe and implementing them, I'd be glad to. So you let me know in the comments. Give me a subscription one time, and I'll definitely be happy to tell you these, man. Cause I'm gonna act like everything I'm speaking to you from right now is a place of experience that I feel within myself, that was consciously integrated and read about and then put into use. And then now you're getting the result and me reinforcing it by showing you true proof of why we need to do these things and what it means. So, transmutation practice, Ham-Sah. There are diverse esoteric systems for transmutating the seminal entity into sexual energy. Certainly, the most powerful one, the Arcanum AZF, has to be performed by a man and a woman. We are talking specifically about the Sahaja Mahuna, sexual energy, white tantrism. Elsewhere, we will give all the details for this practice. For now, and for the moment, we are going to explain an exercise that can be practiced by single people as well as those who are married. I'm going to tell you the technique just now. Please pay attention. Sit down comfortably, the Eastern way, cross-legged, or the Western way, on a comfortable armchair. Relax your body as children do. Inhale deeply, very slowly, and imagine that the creative energy rises through the spermatic channels up to the brain. Mentally pronounce the mantra. Exhale short and quick as you pronounce aloud the mantra Sa. Undoubtedly, you inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. While inhaling, you mantralize the sacred syllable Ham, mentally and internally, since you are inhaling through the nose. So as you're inhaling through the nose, you're saying hum, but you can articulate the syllable sa with the sound while you exhale. So sa. The marvelous symbol that in the East makes the chaotic waters of life fertile is the Ham-Sah, the third logos of the Christ. Usually the sexual forces flow outwards in a centrifugal way, like I was just explaining, how the toroidal flow naturally is going outwards because of how we've lived and what we believe to be true about our physiology and what it means to use our creative force. And when you have a dream-based, usually it flows outward from the inside in a centrifugal way, and that is why there are nocturnal emissions, i.e. wet dreams. You're naturally flowing out. This is why you have wet dreams, because your sexual energy is naturally flowing outward and it's not meant to transmute. And so when you have a dream based on the sexual center, there's often an emission and a loss of sacred sperm or the spermatic liquor. And if one organizes one's vital systems and instead of propitiating the centrifugal system, uses the centripetal system, that is, if one makes the sexual forces flow inwards from the outside through transmutation, then there are no emissions, even if there may be erotic dreams, because now the sexual energy is naturally, through pranayama and facilitating the central nervous system, through the Sushumna canal and the Ida and Pingala, which is energy pathways. The Sushumna is within the spinal column where the cerebrospinal fluid drips downward, and the Ida and Pingala are supposed to be facilitated to generate and flow solar and lunar energy up the spinal column and generate the Chrism to happen and push it up through the Sushumna in a way that it's going to reach the heavens, the archway, of the of God, you know what I'm saying? And one needs to organize one's sexual forces if one wants to avoid emissions. Such forces are closely linked with one's nourishment, with the prana, with the life. That is obvious. Therefore, there is a profound relation between one's sexual energies and one's breathing, so that when both are duly combined and harmonized, they bring about fundamental changes in one's physical and psychological anatomy. To make the sexual energies reflow inwards and upwards in a centripetal way is what matters. Only thus is it possible to produce a specific change in the office and the functions that the sexual creative force can fulfill. During meditation, one needs to imagine the creative energy in action, making the energy rise to the brain in a rhythmic, natural way by means of vocalizing the mantra, not forgetting to synchronize the inhalations and exhalations of air in perfect concentration, harmony, and rhythm. Let us make it clear that inhalation has to be deeper than exhalation, simply because we need to make the creative energy flow inwards from the outside. That is, we need to make exhalation shorter than inhalation. So the expelling of the energy needs to be shorter than the inhalation to reverse the flow from centrifugal into centripetal. To make the sexual energies reflow inwards and upwards in a centripetal way. That is what matters. Only thus is it possible to produce a specific change in the office and functions that sexual creative force can even fulfill. So, to raise the energy of the spine and to facilitate the chrism and the sacred secretion of the cerebrospinal fluid. All of these things must be taken into consideration. It's written out in every culture, all throughout time, in every ancient esoteric school. These are the methods that were implemented by every single person that we revere as a master or somebody who was enlightenment, the lighting of the mind. They had the chrism occur, and the pineal gland, the throne, the light of the body. The 12 cranial nerves within the mind are doubled, so that makes 24 nerves, which equals the 24 elders surrounding the throne, the pineal gland, or the 24 kings. The authority and rule of the 12 disciples and the 12 cranial nerves equals the 24 kings. And the 12 disciples and 12 cranial nerves actually resonate with the 12 astrological signs. And if you take the wheel of astrology and you put the head on the beginning of the spectrum and circumnavigate the body around the rest of the wheel, they all correspond directly with different glands and major energy centers within the body. So now we have the 12 astrological systems of energy within us. That's why the planets play such a huge part on our energy. And the 12 cranial nerves. So when we have retrogrades and certain movements of the planets and the ages of Aquarius and Pisces, the 12 planets and astrological signs are aligned in a way that our energies can facilitate new things. And that's why we go through the retrogrades. That's why we go through the different yugas and the ages, and because it's facilitating different types of energy in the 12 cranial nerves. And the chrism, it happens in different ways. So right now we need to take this up and rise the chrism to activate these 12 cranial nerves. You know what I'm saying? And the 12 disciples are pictures of our entire thought process. Our entire body, soul, and mind needs to follow the truth within. And in the revelation of Jesus Christ to John, we see these nerves represented as kings bowing down and subjecting themselves to God. So the 12 cranial nerves bow down and subject themselves to the God within us, the Christ within us. The 12 disciples, the 12 prophets, the 12 cranial nerves of the brain surrounding the pineal and the pineal gland, the throne where God dwells, Without these 12 sets of cranial nerves, we couldn't function or even live. They are our everything and must be turned over to God. Cranial nerve, major functions. 1. Olfactory smell. 2. Optic vision. 3. Oculomotor eyelid and eyeball movement. 4. Trochlear innervate superior oblique, turns eye downwards and laterally. 5. Trigeminal chewing. Face and mouth touch pain. 6. Eyes move laterally. 7. Facial controls most facial expressions. Secretion of tears and saliva taste. Vestibulocochlear, auditory, hearing, equilibrium, sensation. Number 9. The glossopharyngeal, taste, senses, carotid blood pressure. 10. Vagus senses, the vagus nerves, the 12 nerve, you know what I'm saying? Aortic blood pressure, slows heart rate, stimulates digestive organ taste. Spinal accessory controls trapezius and I ain't gonna read that one. 12. Hypoglossal controls the tongue movement. So imagine the expansion of these central pathways. The 12 major nerves. Imagine this. You know what I'm saying? And if the energy, the chrism, reaches this point in time, you know what I'm saying? And if you transmute that energy, it's just going to open and expand it in ways we would have never seen. And I think this is where the extrasensory perceptions come in and how we actually facilitate physiological changes within the mind that open us up to true energies on a base level, and we can live how a Buddha did or a Christ did. Man, and I think this all needs to be considered, man. And this just blew my mind, man. And I had to stay up, you know what I'm saying, all night one time and put all this together. Like, something just came to me. The Christic energy was facilitated one time, man. My chrism just passed. I facilitated myself for the 3 days, and I tried a new method. I really try to transmutate a lot of energy, and through pranayama and sexual transmutation, etc., and doing the methods of the ancients, do breathing techniques, intention, ritual, giving myself to new energies, praying, all these different types of things, asking, for the neural pathways to be opened. And this is my 3rd month in a row that I've actually done the chrism in a way that I'm facilitating it and nurturing it to the fullest degree. And now it's every single time I get a burst of energy, and it feels like I can feel the DMT and the serotonin being excreted, and my twin flame and my counterpart can feel the same thing. And to have two different beings and as pieces of energy feel the same energy and alchemical process of the chrism during those 3 days, because we are both Scorpio, is an amazing thing to hear experientially. And I think that's what we need to go off nowadays, man. Let's link together. Let's talk. This is a community. This is a beautiful thing. It's the foundation of the Golden Lotus. We're here for everybody, and we're here to actually expand. You know what I'm saying? People's energy fields on a base level. Let's not just theorize. Let's not just hold these type of informations above other people. Let's not just think that we're different because we're doing these things. Let's face the consequences and sacrifice and be like the people who gave everything for this type of things. They died for this shit. You know what I'm saying? They died for practicing this, and even in the face of a blade, even in the face of whips, chains, solitude, mockery, degradation, everything, they decided to give up everything in the name of truth, which is undebatable by opinion and feeling and emotion. They gave it all up to the truth of the cosmos and what it means to be divine and to ascend not only as a human being, but as our divine right as a human being. And they gave up everything to teach us that, so we know what to do and to implement the methods of using the mechanics of this universe, man. And I think that shit's motherfucking important, man. And that's all I got for you, man. Mad love, and thank you for this opportunity, man, to express the divine. You know, for I'm just a conduit, man, and one love, man. Namaste, man. Praise and blessings to all of you, and I hope you have an elevated day, and I hope this helps somewhat in the Chrism experience, man. And let's embrace our inheritance as human beings, man, and expand. One love. Peace.